Do you have something to say? Have you ever thought about doing a podcast but felt overwhelmed with all the choices out there? Or, like me, you have a budget and cannot afford the annual fees? Here's what I want you to do: go to your Play Store and look for Anchor. Anchor is a free podcast app where you too can start your own podcast for free. And yes, it does work because I too am using Anchor. If you're listening to my voice, you have Anchor to thank. You can do everything right from your cell phone. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. You'll be glad you did. I hope you're enjoying the show. If you would like to be a guest on the show and share your story, please email me at lostinside.info@gmail.com and put guest requests in the subject line. That's lostinside.info@gmail.com and put guest requests in the subject line. I'll talk to you soon. If you need to talk, I always say don't keep things inside. Talk to someone, anyone. If you cannot find someone near you, I'm always willing to listen. You can always email me anytime at lostinside.info@gmail.com. Let's talk about it. If you would like to support the show, please visit my website at lostinside.info. There you will find links to my Patreon, merchandise, and free ebooks of Lost Inside and Let It Be. I appreciate any help you can provide. Together we can end the stigma.
Lost inside.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Lost Inside. I am Max Power, your host, and this is Lost Inside, the podcast. If things sound a little funny, it's because it is. So, it's been 2 weeks since my last podcast. One thing I learned about doing this every other week is that time really fucking flies when you're not paying attention. Life happens, things happen. I am actually recording this episode from the comforts of my hospital room. I had something physically happen. I'm in the hospital for a physical ailment, not a mental one. It's going to be a very long road to recovery. But being here alone in my room after midnight, it's got me thinking about quite a few things. Both on the mental side of things and the physical side of things, and kind of they kind of go together. You need this support system. It needs to be in place, and it goes from being very small to being able to move around, or not being able to get out of bed. In my case, I physically cannot get up out of bed. I cannot do the things that we take for granted on a day-to-day basis. I can't get anything for myself. I
can't use the restroom on my own. Um, and while these are physical things, they got me to thinking about on the flip side of the mental aspect of it. Um, some people don't understand when we say that we have a depressive bout that hits us and that we can't get out of bed, we can't do this, we can't do that. Um, it's almost along that same lines. And where I'm finding you generally have some people who generally want to help you. Um, and then you have some people that you're bothering them, and but they're here because they have to help you. I'm experiencing a little bit of both, and it it gets me to thinking about that. Yeah, that support system of when I leave here. So that's something that I kind of want to talk about. Um, and I know things are going to sound like I'm rambling on, primarily because I am. One, at the time of this recording, it is the middle of the night. I am alone, um, and I've already had this conversation about 1,000 different ways in my head, and pushing that red record button has been really hard to do. I just finally went ahead and just did it. Um, Primarily because nothing's making me physically have to do this podcast. I'm doing it because I want to. I set the deadline for myself because uh, I have this fear of disappointing people, and that can be an episode in itself. But anywho, I don't want to disappoint you, the one that's clicked on this episode, the one that's listening to my voice, the one that is trying to learn how to bridge this gap between caregivers and those of us that have these afflictions, where I may be here on the physical side of it, but on the mental side of it, I'm gonna be here forever. So while my hospital stay is actually going to be temporary, um, my hospital stay mentally is gonna be permanent, and I, I'm guessing that the transition that I'm trying to make in my mind, and in my mind, oh, everything went so smoothly. Everybody's gonna understand what I'm talking about. The reality is, I'm rambling on. Um, so here I am lying in my hospital bed, knowing that I should be sleeping. Um, I can't. I can't sleep because my anxiety's kicking in. My anxiety's kicking in because in the morning I'm going to have another surgery. And while I've been getting positive feedback of what's going on, the the things that are going to happen, and one thing I've learned in working in private security along with law enforcement is that there's no such thing as routine. And I kind of knew that growing up. There is no such thing as a routine, whatever. So while this is supposed to be a routine surgery. I, I've already had one. This is basically just going to be a cleanup. But in the cleanup, there's things that are still going to be taken. Of course, there's 1,000 different things that could go wrong that are out of my control. And my anxiety is going through every single one at a time. And that's basically what's keeping me awake. So, that's one. So, trying to make this connection in my head. We've all been in a hospital, one aspect or another, being either the patient or visiting the patient, hearing about somebody in the hospital. We know that, okay, something happened. That is the mental affliction that we get, whether it be bipolar, whether it be depression, anxiety, schizophrenia. The list goes on and on and on and on. I'm not going to try to break those down. So that's what the happened is. We get our diagnoses. We know that it's going to be a long road to recovery. Nothing's ever going to truly be the same. We can get back to where we were before as best as possible. And the only way to truly be able to do that is with our support system. Now, whether that be a friend, a spouse, a trusted colleague, a family member, a brother from another mother, or whatever, whomever fills these roles, and each role is different. We have our doctors who we're going to listen to their every word. We're going to, and I'm using this metaphorically. Yes, in some cases we will have an actual doctor that we talk to, and yes, the doctor can be part of our support group, because they're going to help us and guide us and bring us to a place where we need to be. But we also need to have that metaphorical doctor, the person that we're going to listen to, the person that we're going to take the advice from, the person who is going to try to come up with the plan of recovery, to see us through the storm, whatever it is that we're going through. Then we have the nurses who are going to be with us, taking care of us. And like I'm finding, and I truly hate to say anything negative about a nurse, because they do go through so much. They do see so much. My family of nurses that growing up, everything that, and the ones now that as adults that chose, and then the next generation that is choosing, I thank God for them. Without the nurses, we wouldn't be able to do any of this. We wouldn't be able to even fathom how are we going to do the littlest, simplest things to some of the biggest, grandest things. Um, it's just we can't do things. We can't do it without them. Um, but like I said earlier, you have some nurses that generally here to help, generally want to help, and then you have some, why are you bothering me? Um, and we're going to have those in our lives that we think we found somebody who's going to help us, who wants to help us, but when we push that call button of life of, hey, I'm having this issue, whatever it is, um, then we truly find out that it, if they consider us to be a bother or not. And this is part of the learning process of building that support group, where on the hospital physical aspect side of it, I can't choose who's in my support group. I can't choose who's going to help me. But on the mental side of it, it is my job to choose those people. So these are things to consider. Um, just because a person is a family member or a loved one does not necessarily mean that they're going to be there for us, that they're going to willingly want to help us. Not everybody wants to help. Not everybody wants to see your success mentally, your well-being, you're getting back to health mentally. Not everybody wants that. And that sometimes is a tough pill to swallow, but we have to, and we have to keep going and moving on. But one thing that I am learning, not just from this experience, but in the past couple of months, I've heard it stated a few times, and it's something that I've never really truly thought about until a couple of months ago. Um, the mind, body, and spirit all together has to heal at the same time. So when we have these afflictions, it is hard to come back and think of these things, um, because our mind wants to do them as metaphorically, and they're not always metaphorically, and that's the reality of it. And that this is where I'm finding this is that bridge that I have to build, or that I'm trying to build, to get those caregivers to understand a little bit better of what the afflicted have to go through, what is going on, and wanting to get that help. It's not just inside their mind. It's not just the bipolar issues, or the manic issues, or the depressive states. And you know, there's a few things that are coming up. Here it is, September 17th. And there's a lot that is supposed to be happening right now. From tomorrow to the next few months. And here I am feeling that I'm about to let down a bunch of people. And that I don't know how to handle that. And then it comes back circle. Well, your support group. And then I feel ashamed for needing that support group, um, having to depend on that support group. And okay, now I have to bridge that gap for the afflicted to understand that their caregivers are there because they want to be there. The ones that I choose to be in my support group are choosing me as well. It's not just, oh, I pick you to be this, I pick you to be that. They have to pick me as well. They have to want to help, and they have to want to be there for me. Um, and that's where I have to tell myself the only way I can get better is I have to lean on these people. I have to accept that I cannot do these things alone. And it is a state of mind. The accept the things that I cannot change. And that is so hard. Because you tell yourself, I should be able to function without the having to use somebody as a crutch, or just to lean on somebody to have that support. But the truth, the elusive truth that is there staring us all in the face, and we never want to listen to it. Uh, the lie is always easier. The lie spreads the fastest. Um, but we need this support group. We need this support. We cannot live without the support. So, well, normally my podcast would focus on trying to get caregivers to understand a little better what they don't understand about those of us having these afflictions. I think this episode is more geared towards those who are afflicted. And it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to need help. It's not that we go looking for these episodes. We know we don't. We know we don't want to go through these depressive states. We know we don't want to go through these manic states, these anxieties, and then thinking about them adds on even more and more and more and more. And it keeps building and building and building. And the next thing you know, you're so high up, you can't even look down from what you've built in your own mind. And you need that help to do so. But you don't want to ask. It's okay to ask. It's okay. The only way we can continue moving forward, the only way we can get better, is by building that support system, is by asking. So, to everyone in my support system, thank you. I love you. I am grateful for everything you've done, everything you do, everything that you put up with, because you don't have to do it, and I know you don't. And when all these emotions are overwhelming me and knocking me over, I thank you for being there to help pick me back up. So this is something that I do want to explore further. I don't know how. I really don't. Um, this is where I am working on making this podcast better for you, the listener, you, the afflicted, you, the caregiver, bringing everybody together, making this a better podcast so that we can all learn and we can all heal together. So, thank you for listening to the ramblings of somebody who should be asleep, preparing for surgery. Just trying to get through this. I could have not made a podcast, but I know that I have to. I am under no obligation except the one that I make to myself, the promises I've made to myself, to you. So I'm trying, and I thank you for bearing with me. And please email me at lostinside.info@gmail.com. Questions, concerns, comments, so that I have something to go on, something to build, because I know I'm not the only one listening to this podcast, so I shouldn't be the only one talking on this podcast, and I am working on getting guests and things of this nature. Some of the podcasts that I've had planned keep getting pushed back and keep getting pushed back, and that's no one's fault but my own. But just the fact that you bear with me as I go through this, and bear with me with the next few months as I physically recover, and that physical recovery will become a mental recovery. Until next time, thank you.
I'm just gonna hook up your antibiotic, okay?
Lost Inside is written and produced by me, Max Power. The music used in the show is from the song How Do You Do by Palais Royale, a band that has helped my daughter to deal with her mental health afflictions. I do not own the rights to any of the music used here. Thank you for listening, and until next time, to quote two wise dudes, be excellent to each other and party on.